In the shadowed expanse of the African plains, where the sun burns relentless and the earth cracks beneath its fury, lurks a creature both majestic and marred, a black lion, not just a rare spectacle but a bearer of a grotesque curse. This is no ordinary lion. On its flank festers a wound unlike any other witnessed in the wild, a horrifying cocoon, swollen and sinister, pulsating with the life of uninvited tenants. The wound is a dark tapestry of decay and regeneration, a living gallery of parasitic colonization interrupting the lion's noble existence. Here, in this rotting shrine, the true horror of nature's indifferent cruelty reveals itself. The cocoon itself is a thick, leathery mass, yellowed, encrusted with dried bodily fluids and infected tissue. Beneath its surface, the skin is broken and blistered, weeping a foul-smelling mucus that invites a host of microscopic invaders. This wound serves as an incubator, a nursery for larvae and parasites that feast on the lion's flesh in a parasitic symphony as merciless as it is efficient. Maggots writhe beneath the surface, carving tunnels with razor-sharp mandibles, while tiny mites, invisible to the naked eye, burrow even deeper into the skin's matrix. Their presence betrayed only by the lion's restless shifting and agonized growls. Flies circle the injury like grim sentinels, their buzzing an eerie soundtrack to this morbid tableau. This infestation is no random occurrence, but rather a complex interaction of host and parasite, where the black lion becomes both victim and unwilling caretaker. Parasites such as myiasis-inducing flies lay their eggs deeply within the wound. In the vast, sun-scorched savannas where shadows twist and dance among the acacia trees, there lurks a creature painted in the deepest shades of ebony, an ominous black lion. This majestic predator, normally a symbol of raw strength and natural grace, stands as a grim testament to a darker reality. Awful flank, a repugnant wound festers, a horrifying cavity teeming with writhing parasites that crawl beneath the skin like living threads of decay. It is a grotesque tableau of nature's unforgiving cycle, where the lion, once king, has become host to an unrelenting invasion. This predator, a figure that embodies dominance, now battles a hidden enemy that threatens to consume him from within. Parasite infestations are an unspoken horror in the wilderness, the invisible pallets of symbiotic and parasitic life forms that burrow into flesh, feed on blood, and lay their eggs in the soft underbelly of their hosts. The lion's wound is a revolting spectacle, a blackened crater opened wide by relentless gnawing, secreting foul pus that attracts flies by the thousands. Around the edges, the skin is raw and shredded, where larvae have tunneled deeply into muscles, creating cavities and tunnels that pulse with sickly movement. Each parasite represents a battle won in a microscopic war, yet the cumulative carnage threatens the lion's very life. These parasites include botfly larvae, notorious for their ability to embed in the skin and grow grotesquely before bursting free, as well as ticks and mites that cling to the remaining fur like tiny armored soldiers, relentless in their assault. Lieutenant. The process of infestation begins with a female parasite, often a fly, sneaking past the lion's defenses. She lays her eggs in the crevices of the lion's skin, sometimes exploiting small scratches or wounds already present from territorial fights or hunting skirmishes. When the eggs hatch, the larvae burrow into the soft tissue, consuming the host's flesh and bodily fluids as they grow. The lion's immune system, unable to mount an effective defense, becomes overwhelmed. The skin thickens and hardens at the edges due to inflammation, but this is a feeble barrier against the creeping advance inside. The lion's powerful muscles slowly degrade, and the wound emits an acrid, putrid stench foul enough to spread across the dry plains, summoning scavengers who feast on the distress of the once mighty king. Beneath the tangled shadows of the jungle canopy, where sunlight barely kisses the earth, there exists a jaguar unlike any other, a creature both majestic and marred. Its sleek fur is interrupted by grotesque, swollen cocoons clinging and writhing upon its flesh, a living horror story carved in inches of pouncing muscle and festering skin. What, at first glance, might resemble a macabre mask of nature's handiwork is, in truth, a dark testament to the ruthless intricacies of parasitic infestation. This is no mere superficial injury, but battlegrounds where millions of tiny invaders wage their quiet, invisible war. Parasitic larvae burrow beneath the skin, spinning protective cocoons as they feed voraciously, turning the jaguar's hide into a landscape of oozing, pustulous tumors. The parasite's strategic placement is far from accidental. They exploit the jaguar's dense fur and warm body as a perfect incubator, sheltered from the elements but intimately connected to the host's blood supply. The jaguar, known for its strength and stealth, reveals a vulnerability few witness: the slow and relentless weakening brought on not by claws or teeth, but by the insidious colonization of its body. Each cocoon is a fortress, filled with wriggling larvae that consume living tissue, disrupting muscle function and inflicting a deep, unyielding pain beneath the beast's stoic expression. The skin stretches painfully thin over infected areas, inflamed and festering as the parasite's metabolic waste poisons local tissues. Secondary infections often join this grim party, with bacteria flourishing in the decaying flesh. Turning once impenetrable beneath the shimmering white mane of this rare white lion lies a grotesque testament to nature's cruel indifference. A barnacle wound so horrific it seems to ripple with a macabre life of its own. This isn't the majestic beast celebrated in fairy tales, but a living canvas smeared with decay, a harrowing spectacle where flesh festers and parasites feast. Imagine a torn battlefield on the lion's flank. The skin is ruptured, draped with thick crusts resembling barnacles on a weathered ship hull, hardened clumps nesting in the folds, like tiny grim monuments to suffering. The stark whiteness that should evoke purity is instead tinged with streaks of darkness, oozing, raw, and pulsating with a sinister vitality that demands attention. These barnacle-like growths are not maritime hitchhikers, but colonies of necrotic tissue and parasitic organisms thriving in the carnage of the lion's own flesh. As the lion drags through the dusty savanna, these parasites burrow and multiply, biding time beneath the surface in the warm, nutrient-rich haven provided by injury. With every breath, the lion draws in a world buzzing with microscopic and multi-legged threats. Mites, ticks, and various blood-sucking insects capitalize on this weakness, embedding themselves deeply where the wound's fortress of dead tissue speaks to their abundance. Life here is far from gentle. It is a relentless struggle where invaders co-opt the lion's body as a decaying habitat, transforming it into a grotesque ecosystem of infection and infestation. Peering closer reveals worm-like parasites slithering beneath the skin, invisible to a casual glance, but unstoppable in their silent devastation. These helminths twist and coil, drawing nourishment directly from the lion's flesh and blood. As if drawn to tragedy, flies swarm in thick, buzzing clouds, laying eggs that hatch swiftly into maggots, nature's crude janitors breaking down tissue, but in doing so tormenting the lion with incessant feeding. The wound, far from a simple affliction, is a living nightmare, a dark carnival of biological decay where the boundary between host and parasite blurs into a ghastly symbiosis. The lion's suffering is compounded by this teeming menagerie, a vivid reminder that survival often calls. In the shadowy realm where wild beauty meets brutal reality, there lurks a creature both majestic and tragic, a leopard whose sleek fur conceals a grotesque secret, a living nightmare etched onto its flesh. Imagine this: beneath the golden spotted coat, a gruesome hive of parasitic cocoons festers, an eruption of tiny, pulsating sacs embedded deep within the wounded flesh. The sight is hellish, a writhing mosaic of sickness and decay, each cocoon like a sinister pearl nestled in an open wound, dripping with a dark, sticky fluid that smells like the very essence of rot. This hidden horror is a grotesque monument to nature's harsh indifference, an unsettling dance of survival where the invader turns host into a grotesque nursery for its young. This living tableau of parasitic infestation is not for the faint-hearted. These parasites, a particular breed of insect larvae, have made the leopard's flesh their home by embedding themselves just beneath the skin in complex cocoons. The female parasite seeks out a living host, a warm, defenseless creature, and deposits her eggs. Upon hatching, the larvae do not simply scatter. They burrow deep into the soft tissues, eating away and consuming nutrients while spinning a protective casing made of silk like threads combined with host secretions. Over time, this cocoon cluster grows, swollen and infected, causing immense pain and inflammation, a battlefield of biological warfare right beneath the beast's skin. The infestation process is both fascinating and horrifying. The leopard, a top predator of the savanna, is caught in an unexpected vulnerability as these parasites exploit its wounds or weak spots left from previous battles or scratches. Once inside, the larvae secrete enzymes that dissolve host tissue, effectively turning the leopard's own body into a grotesque nursery. A tightly woven mesh of fiber structures traps fluids and cells, creating an oxygen-rich. In the shadowed depths of the Amazonian underbrush, hidden beneath the thick canopy, a monstrous spectacle lurks that most would instinctively recoil from an anaconda, the colossal serpent of legend. Its immense, glistening coils marred by a horrific tableau of parasitic infestation. The eye is immediately drawn, not to the snake's muscular power or hypnotic gaze, but to a grotesque wound oozing with fetid fluid, a stubborn wound bedeviled by thousands of writhing, tiny invaders clinging to its flesh, and a gruesome symbiosis of terror and survival. It is in this unholy union of predator and parasite that the natural world reveals one of its darkest, most intimate secrets, the incessant, brutal struggle not just for dominance, but for mere existence. Upon closer inspection, the wound festers like a blackened crater in the snake's thick, scaly hide. The parasites you might imagine are not some mythical beasts, but real biological scavengers, leeches, mites, botfly larvae, that have turned this apex predator into a host, a living incubator of decay and disease. The leeches are dark and rubbery, their mouths anchored in the snake's skin, sucking blood with a relentless thirst that seems impossible for the massive anaconda to satisfy. Mites, tiny arachnids, invisible to the casual eye, have colonized the surrounding scales, embedding themselves and gnawing away at the protective keratin layer, causing itching and irritation that drives the serpent to bite and thrash, only worsening the open wound. The botfly larvae take this relationship to a disturbing extreme. These maggot-like creatures burrow inside the tissue, carving out cavities surrounded by inflamed, necrotic flesh. Their creeping movement beneath the skin sends agonizing pulses through the snake's body, yet paradoxically, the anaconda's immune response is dulled by a combination of stress and the parasite's evolved biochemical stealth, allowing the